जिंदगी का सफर है ये कैसा सफर कोई समझा नहीं.
I am going to share the sweet remembrances of my loving sister Vima, even before she was born. My mother was expecting a baby when I was about 4 years old. Unknowingly anything about this world, I used to say, Babaji, bless me with a sister. And God was kind enough to bless me with a loving sister. Our bond and love for each other was so strong from the day she was born. The baby started growing. I was about 5 years old and she was about 6 months old. I wanted to pick her up all the time. And Vimal was a healthy child, and I was not so strong to hold her all the time. With the result, my arms got swollen. When my mother noticed it, she prevented me to hold the baby. But when I insisted to do the same, my mother told me that if I do not leave her alone, she will go back to Babaji, or Babaji will take her back. So this idea of my mother worked, because I always have the fear that if I do not leave her alone, she can go back to Babaji, and I never wanted that. In this long journey of life, we always remain very close and caring for each other. The most surprising thing is that in spite of not having the similar habits or thoughts, we never had an argument. That is really a remarkable thing. Even later years of life, when she was sick, she used to listen me when she refused to do the same thing from her helpers, and used and her helpers used to tell me that she listen to you only. On January 9th, she was gone to be with Babaji, and I finally had.
My mom was my anchor. She was the safe, soft, gentle place that I could fall into. I remember as a child holding my mummy's hand tightly and knowing that I was safe, and this smart, competent, loving woman would take care of me, and many years later it would be my hand that she would hold to feel the same way. My mother loved me beyond measure, and there will never be another person in this lifetime that will love me like that will look at me with such love and adoration. I was blessed to be raised by her, to be nurtured and guided by her. She was very wise, and that wisdom came from her heart, which was open. And when she listened to you, it was with her whole being, and it made you feel comforted. She didn't quote famous philosophers or religious scholars. She just listened and shared her thoughts, an incredible gift. Her loving energy filled every space we ever lived in with warmth and laughter. While she is no longer here in the physical world to do that, she lives on through all of us that were lucky enough to be loved by her. And we will strive to keep that open heart within us and laugh often as she would have done. I love you, Mummy, and I can never repay all that you have done for me. We will miss you endlessly.
Didi had such a kind and caring nature. I have so many beautiful memories of her over the years. Even when Amber was born, she went out of her way to make and mail panjiri for me. She showered us with love and kind words, even in her final days. I will always remember her heartwarming personality. Love you, Didi.
I am Vimal Nagi's nephew, specifically her older brother's son, Kamal Walia. My dad had three sisters and an older brother. Vimal Bua was the youngest of them all. which is why her nieces and I thought of her as an older sister instead of our aunt. So we called her Vimal Didi. And this continued to the next generation as my kids, Palak and Arman, also called her Vimal Didi, though it should have been Vimal Dadiji. I'm sure everyone here has their fond memories of Vimal Didi. However, I wanted to share a few memorable events. My parents' home was open to all and was a place to go to when anyone came to Delhi. Very often one saw guests stay over months, sometimes years, to allow them to settle down in the big city. Having experienced this in a young life, Vimal Didi's home became the place to go to when anyone came to the USA. Most of her and Manjeet Uncle's family members either made this their first stop or thought of it as their Indian family home. Everybody was welcome. This was because of Vimal Didi's warm, welcoming, and caring personality. You automatically became a part of her family. Another story that will highlight her personality is about the time when I once called her to see if she could loan me some funds as I was hoping to invest in the stock market, but I was running short of a few dollars. This must have been in the early 90s when I was in my 30s. Her immediate response was that she would love to help me. This conversation must have been over the weekend. 2 3 days later, I called her and she said that she needed to provide some paperwork to the bank to get the funds. I became curious. I said, "Funds for what? What kind of paperwork?" She replied, "I'm going to take a loan and send it to you." I was so stunned by this beautiful gesture, but of course, I could not have her take out a loan for me to invest in the stocks. That was Vimal Didi, so innocent, loving, and genuinely caring. Needless to say, I did not let her take out a loan so that I could invest in the stock market. But I never forgot this act of love. Truly, in real sense, Vimal means pure, soft, see through, which stands true for her.
So I have known my aunt, Didi, as I called her, from before I was born. And why? Because she was there and mom had gone to grandma's place for her delivery. So, we've been hanging out together since before my appearance into this world. So we go back a long, long way, let me tell you. And then, she was a really fun person ever since she was little. So I think the biggest trauma that they went through was the partition. And guess what she was thinking? She wanted to make sure that they had food when they left the house. She wanted to make sure they had enough mutties. Because, you're leaving. You got to have food. Come on, you have to have your priorities right. So now that when we talk about it, we think it's so funny. Like she was the smart one. Who knows, with these people, they're so stressed out. They might actually forget the food and we don't know, where we're going, how far we're going, when we're going to get to eat. So, let's get our priorities straight here. And then she and mom and she have been really, really close, always very close. I don't know who does more for the other. I mean, it's like a competition without being a competition. And so the thing, when I say the fun part, the only entertainment they had was watching movies, back in the day, and they were allowed to watch a movie a month. Well, things happen, and sometimes 2 movies are released in a month that one might want to see. And she knew that her dad would not listen to her because he knew her, and so he also knew my mom, who never asked for favors. So she would tell my mom, she's like, Pindri, tu pita di tu jaake puchna, if you ask, then he's not going to refuse. And mom, of course, didn't want to, but then her sister wanted her baby sister wanted her to ask, so she did, and they were allowed to do it. So when I talk about fun, that's when the fun starts. Oh, and then the other fun thing was that I don't know if you want to call it fun or you want to call it a bit defiant or standing up for herself. Her brother wanted her to cover her head when they went for walks, went to the market. That was his thing for some odd reason. I don't know why that was. But she refused. She's like, nope, I am not going to do it. On the other hand, my mom, being the compliant one, she's like, fine, no big deal, I'll do it. And Didi's thing was, no, because then they call me, they call me Panji and Mataji when I go to college the next day. I'm not doing this. And she just refused. Go tell somebody else to do it. I'm not listening. I know what I have to deal with the next day. So there you go. Standing up for herself. And then time passes, and then I actually came and I stayed with them for 9 months in Livingston when they had Rocket. Now, I don't suppose any of you guys have had the pleasure of visiting Rocket, but it was a small truck stop, but it was a really cozy, welcoming place. We had regulars, the Japanese farmers who came to eat, have their coffee there at their coffee breaks, and you get to know everybody. And she ran it well. And that was a 24/7 job. So she has really worked hard all her life and done it, and she made it a success. So there's that. And then later on, when I would visit Livingston with my boys, she always made it a point to take them to Chuck E. Cheese in Merced. So it's not just that she was just hanging out with us and looking out for her mutties, but she was there taking care of everybody else too. She's like, no, this is what they like. This is where we're going to go. We're going to go have our pizza, and we're going to go and so the boys can watch, and they can play the games there. Did they have games there? I can't even remember. But whatever it was, that's where they wanted to go. That's where she was going to drive them to. So she has, in my experience, she has always been beyond generous, superbly loving, giving, kind. I mean, there's not anybody that it should not do for. Perhaps you guys have also experienced the same. Earlier on, of course, when they didn't have that many stressors, they would go out with their friends quite a bit, and she really enjoyed that. She really enjoyed the company, and liked to go out and do those kinds of things. But then sometimes life throws a curveball, and things change. And the other thing that I remember is that she would always ask me. She'd be like, "When are you coming, Anju? Have you made a plan?" And I'd be like, "No, not yet. I haven't thought about it." And then she's like, "Okay, then then get to it, and I'm going to pay for your ticket." And that was her thing. We all have our thing, and it was just a given. She was just going to say it. I was just going to hear it without expecting to hear it. But it was always there. I'm going to pay for your ticket. Now go look for a flight now. And every time I came, it was really nice hanging out with her. Just nice, just comfortable. It was like being home. And I also spent 3 months in 2011 with them. I spent that whole summer with them, and that I can absolutely with 100% guarantee say that was the best summer of my life that I can remember. I mean, at a stretch, all 3 months. There we were, again, just hanging out together. It's not like, we were going on great adventures or anything, but just hanging out together. With some people, you have that. You don't need, international trips or fancy places to go to, or, do any of those extraordinary things. It's just great to be around. And then the other thing also was, every time I came was, all right, let's go to the mall, let's go buy you a dress. And I always refused. They're like, no, not now, next time. Well, guess what? I finally bought myself some dresses last year. So every time I wear my dress, I am going to think of my Didi. She wanted to go. I didn't do it at that time, but I have done it, a little slow, but I get to it. I get to things. And then, the thing was that once she was diagnosed, people can turn aggressive, people can turn violent, people can, become just basically intolerable, but not my aunt. If anything, she was even kinder, sweeter, gentler, more gentle. That was just her, and that was pretty amazing in itself. And then she did go through quite a rough patch for quite a while, and now she is home free. So we can rejoice in the fact that her soul is soaring, and she and her soul has met up with uncles. They're together, and they are having fun and dancing and laughing and chatting and just hanging out together, just like they used to back in the day before life took over, I guess. So until we meet again, Didi, and I'm sure we will. I don't think our give and take is over yet. So until then, with all my love, have fun, be happy, be healthy wherever you are.
My aunt, who her nieces and nephews referred to as Didi, meaning older sister, was the sweetest, most caring and loving person. Didi's kindness and generosity knew no bounds. She has one daughter, but she gave as much love to her nieces as she did to her own daughter Rachna. She was thrilled when I visited and always made me feel welcome. She and my uncle, Dr. Nagy, would often talk about having a big house with a lot of bedrooms so all of us could live together. She loved to pack food for me when I visited, and when she found out I liked goat curry, she made sure goat curry was served each time I came to visit. She and my mom shared a very special bond of selfless love, which is almost impossible to find between siblings. I love you, Didi. May your soul rest in peace.
Anyone who knew my Nani knew the kindness and purity of her heart. She worked tirelessly for her family, and not once did I ever hear her complain. For any meal at her house that I can remember, she would need to be told sternly to sit down and join the family at least 5 times before doing so, as she was too concerned with everyone else's happiness to consider her own. This seemed to be a common theme throughout her life, constant sacrifice. Whether it was the sacrifice of leaving her friends and family to come to a new country with a small child, all to take a chance on the dreams of her husband, the sacrifice to wake up before the sun came up every day to run and operate a 24-hour diner to support her family, or the sacrifice of time spent away from her daughter and grandchildren to stay with her husband and son and ensure they were always fed and cared for. Nani was constantly thinking of others, always going above and beyond for her loved ones, and caring to a fault. Whether I wanted a prata, to play cards, or to lay in bed while she rubbed my back with the softest hands I'd ever felt, her acts of love were constant. She lived a life of service to others, and when that service was for her family, it was always done with love and joy. It's for this reason that she had so much tremendous love and support in her later years from her family, because a person as kind-hearted and loving as Vimal Nagi deserved that love returned, even if it was never expected. It doesn't feel like there are enough words to describe the warmth of her hugs, the sound of her laugh, or the overwhelming feelings of melancholy and love I experience when I think about my Nani. I will miss her very much. She was my favorite person in the world, and it wasn't particularly close, but I'm incredibly grateful for the relationship I had with her. She made it a priority to be as involved with us as she possibly could have been, and while words alone cannot do her or the love I had for her justice, I know how blessed I was to have had the most amazing Nani I could have ever asked for, and I will always remember and appreciate her loving spirit as long as I live.
Sweet. That's the word that's most often used to describe my mother-in-law, and I certainly wouldn't argue its appropriateness. She was sweet, always. She cared for people, all people, and wanted to do the very best for everyone, doing whatever she could to advance them in their lives. Whether it be her relatives, friends, or employees, she always wanted the best for others. I can't tell you how many lives she touched and improved. How many people came into her orbit and found their circumstances literally transformed for the better? When I thought of Dad's legacy, knowledge is what came to mind. He was extremely knowledgeable about things and would offer to, quote, let me explain whatever we were talking about, and was generally followed by a detailed description of the issue at hand, and I truly learned a lot during these conversations. But Mom was different. She had wisdom and grace. She didn't feel compelled to explain things to you, although she didn't withhold her insights, and was truly a bright woman with great depth. But her wisdom was very much like her presence, understated, but welcomed, there for you, but not imposing. I remember when Rosh and I were seeing each other, she accepted me into her family like she received an old friend into her home. Truly excited to see you, beaming with joy, so very glad you were in her home. She enveloped you with warmth. Yet I remember telling my wife prior to getting married but the thought of calling her mom just seemed odd. I mean, how is it not an awkward thing? Yet it turned out to be amazingly natural. Her warmth, her love was so much a part of her. Calling her anything other than mom would soon seem unthinkable. I tried to think of a time when it was uncomfortable, or at least a little awkward. Sometime when she took issue with me or my decision on something. A time she was annoyed, cross, or at least a little put off. But nothing came to mind. She was simply sweet and supportive. If I'd ever done anything to annoy her, she did an incredibly good job of concealing it. She thought better of me than I deserved. Parents teach you a lot in life. Some lessons more impactful than others, and as we get older, I think we're perhaps a little less open to receiving them. But Mom taught me something totally unexpected. How to be a grandparent. Surprising for a woman who said prior to the birth of our daughter, I don't feel like a grandparent, and I'm not sure how to be one. Yet, more than any other person, she welcomed our children with unbridled happiness that a parent can only hope for when her child is received by another. I watch videos of her playing with our children, and total joy she experiences beyond anything I could describe. I couldn't possibly explain the love I have as a parent, yet there it was, on display in front of me. Complete and absolute adoration of another person. Our little person. And this is how our kids were greeted every time they saw her. She raised my wife, welcomed me into her family, and showered our children with love. I couldn't hope for or imagine more from anyone in my life. And I will always feel the loss of her presence.
A contagious smile, a cheerful laugh, comforting hugs, a warm presence. I don't know how you celebrate a grandmother like mine. With a soul as beautiful and selfless as hers was, it feels almost impossible to properly celebrate a woman like Harinder Doggy. My Nani was my best friend, and knowing her was simply feeling love. She isn't someone you look up to because of their accomplishments, though they existed. She's someone that you look up to because of the kind of heart she had, and the way she treated anyone lucky enough to cross paths with her. Grandmothers are meant to remember your accomplishments and forget your mistakes. They're meant to offer guidance, share stories, and create lasting memories. They're meant to make you feel as though they waited for you all day, and once you've arrived, the day is complete. And what's so special about my Nani is she made everyone feel that way. Her love was so vast, her heart so big, and though she may no longer be with us in person, her spirit will live on in our hearts, and how lucky are we to have such a beautiful spirit to live on within each of us. This isn't a goodbye, Nani. It's a thank you. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the countless games of Rummy. Thank you for the talks we'd have over chai and pratas. Thank you for your joy, and thank you for the memory of you that we get to cherish forever.
Ready, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pari kita kena baby pari. Pari kita kena. Pari kena ci. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pari kena berci. No, they can't say. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to get you. I'm going to come. Hello, brush. So let's brush the baby. Let's brush it. Let's brush baby's hair. Let's brush baby's hair. Let's brush baby's hair. Let's brush baby's hair. You want to do again? Okay, let's brush the hair first. Let's brush the hair first. Brush तो है नहीं सी बात तो है नहीं ठीक बच्चे. Come on. Okay. Ready? I'm going to come. Ready. 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh no. Chalo boy. Chalo, let's go. Where do you want to go now? Where do you want to go? What do you want? What, this? What is this?
That's my picture. No, don't give up to her, Mom.
That's Mommy. Who's that? That's my Maya. Pari kar lo, Maya no. Kita kay Maya. Maya si. Maya pari kar lo. Tuchi kar lo.